Aubrey, and this is the first episode of the Black Woman's Guide. So let me share with you a little bit as to why I started this show. I have been kind of building businesses and programs since I was probably in high school. And over the last decade or so, I started programs at my schools, at my universities. I've also, just a consultant, an independent consultant, worked with universities. I've managed boards all across the country. I've launched a food company. I had a tech company where I won a tech competition. And through all that experience of the up and down, I felt like I really got some good learnings around how to build different kind of businesses, how to get the business up and running, off the ground, and how to kind of actually grow it as well. And then professionally speaking, I've always kind of been in a management capacity. So I've always been looking at large P&Ls and budgets, operations, physical plant, managing a team, all the other things you kind of need to know to run a business at an enterprise level. And so the combination of that makes me want to share that information. And so one reason why I started the show was to talk through all the experiences that I've had, but also share some of the key lessons I've learned working with other Black women business owners, coaches, experts, trainers, and startup founders, while building the Black Woman's Guide. So one thing I've learned across the board, no matter who I've talked to, is that nothing replaces consistent effort. So when you're writing out your business plans for the week, or you're deliberating on your goals, or trying to organize your stuff, nothing replaces kind of the consistent work ethic to maintain and grow your business. So this month we'll talk really about business survival tips. So how do you measure your progress? How do you continue to grow? Stay motivated when things get challenging, which they always do. And so we'll talk about all of that. And so let's just jump right in right now into measuring your progress. So one thing I would say, just kind of very on a high level light touch, is the big takeaway here is begin by making a list that you can actually finish versus one that makes you feel good. So what I mean by that, so this is the reality check of all reality checks. You start from a fake assumption, right? You're like, I'm gonna get all these 100 things done. I made this massive list of everything I have to do in my life. I have to talk to my accountant. I have to go research legal documents. I have to start marketing on Facebook and da-da-da-da. Not only are those things in their own right massive, but there's no actual way you can get them done in a week, right? And so what happens is you can actually start dismissing the results, because even though you made the list, which makes you feel good, gave you that dopamine kick of I'm getting stuff done, in actuality, you couldn't actually get those things done. So the second thing that happens is anxiety and overwhelm, and then you shut down, right? And so you have this huge list that you never actually finish, and you don't hold yourself accountable to that reality. Because when you look at that list, you go, it wasn't even feasible in the first place. So I'm not going to be too hard on myself because I didn't get all that stuff done. But in that same moment, you're not actually understanding what you did get done and if that was enough to get you to where you want to go or not. So I'm not saying that the one thing you did on your list or two are not valuable, but you don't really have a sense of how valuable they actually are toward your core goal. Because once you've dismissed the list and the timeline, you now don't really know what you're doing, why you're doing it, and when it has to be done to hit your goal. So if you keep it simple, you're forced to look at what you've done and what you haven't done, right? And take stock in what that means for you, right? That's that moment in the mirror, what am I doing and why am I doing it, right? So if you haven't got the stuff done, it's a chance to talk to yourself and go why didn't I do it? How do I feel about that? Is that really the best version of me that I want to bring to the world or to this project? So you get to kind of do that process, have that conversation with yourself. Just one of the most important things that you need to anchor in as a business owner is having these moments, these checkpoints, these trigger moments to reflect on your business. And people use reflect, and I think some of them use as a soft word or not, but the main point here is that you need a moment that says, I'm going to hold my feet to the fire. And so when I reflect, I'm really looking at where I was trying to go versus why I didn't get there. And I make a decision about how I'm going to operate moving forward, not just a new list, but a way I'm going to operate moving forward that's going to serve me to actually get to my goals on time and on target. I think sharing stories is one of the most powerful ways that we can share learning and inspire change within ourselves and others. And so this week I will talk about a friend of mine and a client, Melissa. So Melissa had a lot of goals, like all Black women do. She wanted to start real estate. With her family, she does she's a writer, so she does adult writing workshops. But she also does programs that are related to scholarships for students. right? So near and dear to most people's hearts, and like very good work, very important work, very valuable work. It's so hard to determine like where her priority should live. So you probably have heard me talk about this on my Facebook page or around the ladder system. And so the ladder system really says, instead of having different priorities, like 5 different things I want to do in all different directions that pull me apart and don't allow me to give my best to any one thing, I create a ladder system. I funnel us all to a linear path. So I'm able to say, I'm going to start here, and when I get to a point of health in my business, profitability, I'm able to take that money and invest it into my business and then reinvest it into future goals that I have. So now the bottom goal, the first thing I start with, is tied to the top goal. So maybe my bottom goal, I'm going to start a bakery, or I'm going to start, selling cupcakes, like on a really basic level. But my end goal is to wholesale my cupcakes and start a nonprofit around health, around food and wellness or something like that, right? So there's a path there that you can follow, and you can start with the first one, make it profitable. So we did the same thing with Melissa. So we worked out a ladder system that gave clarity and focus. It originally started with her saying, I have all these different things I want to do. And the first thing we did was we determined, like, what should we focus on? So this is not about, I think people kind of mistake focus versus clarity, and they're kind of different things. So focus was just like, let's just take the list that you have and let's like clean it up. Like just reduce the amount of things you have to understand and spend time on. So focus means, what am I going to spend the majority of my time on? Once you get into that focus point, then you can go into clarity. What am I really trying to get done here, right? And that's where we decided, instead of going to real estate and adult workshops, we said, let's focus on the scholarship program, because she's already working with schools and within schools. And she had great relationships with universities and students and parents. So let's focus on what's happening there. And then we got clarity. What's the product we're actually selling? Are you doing summer camps? Are you doing an online course? Are you doing workshops through schools? Yes, you could do all of that, but should you do all of them at the beginning? And if you're talking about a scalable business model, passive income and all those different things that people want, lifestyle and all this, you want to start from a perspective that's a little bit more clear. So from that clarity point, she's been able to act and create a plan that allowed her to be able to execute now only on that one product related to schools. She's going to be doing moving forward instead of all the 3 that she had. So you do the same thing. That process took her, I would say, about a year and a half. And I want to say that out loud, because I think people don't give things time to manifest. They think, I want to make a decision right now. But then they go to do the work and then they falter because they're not really committed, not really clear. So we want to get there. We want to slow it down and just do the work. Because if we slow it down in the beginning, we're going to get faster at the end, which is what matters in reality. Not how fast you start, but how fast you finish. So think about taking each step thoughtfully and giving yourself hard deadlines to come to decisions. So, for example, we talked about the first stage, which is focus, and that might have taken her, like, we talked through it, but it probably took her like 2 months or 3 months to really like, okay, I really cleaned out my schedule, I really turned to some things, I talked to some other folks, and it's like I'm really okay with like giving my, not just my words, but my time to this one thing only, right? So it's really about that internalization and a commitment of what I say I'm going to do. So focus is not just picking something. It's about everything in your life mirroring the fact that you picked it, right? So we go through that process. And so again, it took a little while, but that was really important because now she's at a healthy place, at a happy place, which is important because a lot of people are in their businesses under a lot of stress and strain, not enjoying the thing that they're actually trying to do, which makes them go really fast, quick and dirty, feel it in their product. So think about how you can do your ladder system. You can spend time doing it on a worksheet or whatnot, but I think it's important to recognize that the implementation of that is longer than you expect, and that's okay, because at the end you have full clarity, you're able to act, and then you're off into the races. So what makes, I think Black women amazing is that we want to create so many good things in the world, and but we have to deal with reality that we're only one person. Like there's only one Dom, there's not 15. I wish there were, right? So with only so much time and only so many resources, we can only do so many things. So we have to really focus fully on one thing. Otherwise, we're going to be distracting ourselves from our core mission and goal. So the solution to that, I really think, is a ladder method and simple building block tool. So we pop up the image for you guys, check it out. It helps you determine what the first business that you build is, the easiest business, one that's closest to you, most accessible to start with. Once you get that first business up and healthy, use it to fund the next business idea. So just to give another example, just kind of structurally, so if you were going to say, be a coach. The first thing you might build is a course. And once you get the course built and marketed and sold, then you can take that money and, build a conference or an event series. Then you get the event series up and running, it makes money, and then you can build into a retreat, right? And so you can kind of slowly grow your business instead of trying to do all of them at the same year, like grow them slowly, because you're going to be able to take that money and reinvest it. And that's going to reduce your spend, or irresponsible debt, as I call it, and allow you to focus your money where it matters most. So by doing this, you're able to do a few things, right? You're able to build your business in life without irresponsible debt, right? Debt that you're spending because it makes you feel good to get the things done or get the cool new software tool, but doesn't really serve you long. You're able to release all the mental energy it takes to hold onto these ideas in the present, right? Because now you know that all that's going to happen is because you have a plan, right? So like now you don't have to freak out, like, am I doing this? Does it matter? Am I missing the boat? I'm not going to get to that thing. Oh my gosh, because now you see that it's a path. 3, because you know that you only have one thing to focus on and get healthy before you move to the next, there's no urgency to build the next thing, because now you're like, oh, I can actually just commit to this. I hear a lot of people say, I have to do these 3 things in this year to make this much money. Like, well, or you just do one of those things really, really well and make the same amount of money. We're so used to coming from a perspective of lack and scarcity that we'll build something and will never be enough. So you have to build more things. But in reality, if you're just committed to the thing that you're building, you can see that it will get you very, very, very far. 99% of business models and businesses work. You know what doesn't work? The person. They panic, they get impatient, right? But the business models, the tried and true ones that you see everywhere, you see coaching businesses, you see tech businesses, software businesses that are at the enterprise level, like Dropbox, or you see Facebook with ads, or you see magazines that sell ads, you see, storefronts like hair salons and boutiques. Like, there's certain models that already exist that work. So if it doesn't work for you, is it that it doesn't work, or it doesn't work for you? You're not working for it, right? Because the models are there already. So you have to really just let something get healthy. Stop rushing to something else. You're being impatient with yourself. And what you're actually saying to yourself is that you don't believe that you can get it done. The last thing is it releases stress. So because you have clarity, it releases your stress and it creates focus and happiness because you know what you're doing pretty much, right? And it's something that you know is going to lead you to the success you want in your life at the end, which is the whole point, right? Happiness and health and wellness with love, doing things with love. So I'm going to post this link so you can get the graphic of the ladder system on Facebook. So this week I would like you to get the ladder system and fill out your version of the ladder. What do you think it would be, right? And map out the steps you need to take at each level. So just kind of basic plan. And then from there, you can start to build a progress tracker with some big deadlines and milestones. You're able to see, oh, here's what I'm trying to get to at a high level. And I would just recommend that you pick kind of, 1 to 3 goals, 1 to 3 major benchmarks. It could be a year out, 3 years out, whatever. But I usually plan for my business. I do deep planning, at a monthly to 3-month level. I do some decent planning at 6-month level, but I also have benchmarks that are 18 and 24 months out. So I think it's important because I don't say out loud, oh, I want to make $100,000 now. I say, okay, my goal is to ramp up to a place where I can make $100,000 in 18 months or 24 months or whatever, right? So you have to think about how to do that thoughtfully and create goals against that ladder system that you're building for yourself. Because now that you have the clarity of the path, take the first thing at the bottom of the ladder and spend some time breaking out what are the big milestones that you want to reach within a window, a year, 3 years, or 5 years. Then you start with the first one on that list and start breaking it down slowly. You'll get to where you want to go. So this is the first week. I had a couple of my clients ask me a couple of questions. But going forward, if you have any questions for me on business growth or strategy, on the hashtag, and I will try my best to answer them during the show. The first question is for me. She runs J&M Publishing and asks, how do I know when it's time to adjust my plan or just wrap up? And I would say again that timeline to success and failure is really important. Say that again, timeline to success or failure. So when you're looking at your plan, you want to just be thinking about, I have a benchmark which says in 3 months I'm going to get to X. If you don't get to that benchmark, what you want to do is have a conversation. So let's say you said, I'm going to have an event and I want 10 people to come to event or 20%. So if the event happens and 18 come or 17 come, you still didn't hit your goal. So do not say, oh, it's all good. It's 17, I'll get it next time. No, you didn't hit your goal. You didn't hit your goal. So know that. But it's a place for you to have a conversation with yourself. What could I do better or make sure I hit the 20? That's what we call a pivot. It's a slight deviation, it's a slight change from the core thing that we're trying to get to. Now, if you had an event and 5 people came, you would know you're in the red zone. And that's a place, not just when I say scrap it and start over, what I mean is look at it with fresh eyes. I'm not saying throw it away, the idea doesn't work. I'm saying look at it with fresh eyes and apply more rigor to the assessment process to see if it's worth moving forward, how would you do it differently, and so on. Okay, so those are important. So in general, you have to have these max and min levels. What's the best case scenario, or what I think is possible? So I think 20 people is possible. Maybe my best case scenario is 50 people, but that's not possible to get there in the first event. But I think 20 is. So 20 becomes my benchmark, right? And I know that if I get less than 7 people, that I really didn't hit the mark and it's not really a win. So that gives you a window. And so you know if I hit between something in that range, that I can either pivot, right? If it's like 15 or up, I can pivot and tweak. If it's 15 and below, I need to really rethink what I'm doing, right? And that gives you a framework to decide if you're going to adjust or scrap or start over. But I would always say, particularly in the beginning, it usually takes more time. So I rarely ever say, just throw it in the trash. I usually say, look at it with eyes. That I ask different questions, but I do it differently. Maybe I'm talking about the thing like it's an event, but it's actually not an event. If the goal is to get people to participate in a conversation. So if I take it out of the box of an event, I now have flexibility to that could exist or be expressed. So that's what I say when I say don't just throw it in the trash, because the core idea could be really good. Just maybe how you try to express it, forcing it into a nonprofit model, forcing it into a subscription model, forcing it into whatever, may or may not be true. So just make sure that you're focusing, especially in the beginning of your business, on the pivoting and maybe the rethinking versus the throwing away. And I say that for the first year or 2 years of your business. When I say give me some time, I mean 2 years. Okay, so next question. How do I begin to create a vision for where my business can go? How do I think realistically? So I think what's the most important here is to understand that you only go as far as you get. Even though it feels great to make all these other plans and whatever, but you really get done is what you're proud of, right? So what I would just recommend here is that you want to focus on the end result. And this is a really hard process for people because people really can't see the end result. And what I'd say is pick the end result that works for you. If all you can see is 10 months or 6 months or 1 year out, that's cool. If you can see 5 years, 10 years, 15 years out, that's cool. Just know that in your gut, when you get that feeling of I'm not so sure about that, that's you saying, I'm not sure. And if you're not sure, you can't trust that. You can't believe it. So you don't believe it. So it doesn't serve you to fake the goal. It does not serve you to fake the goal. So create a vision for where your business can go whenever you see it. If the minute you start saying, well, I hope I get to here, you'll believe. For example, you say, well, what are you doing tomorrow? Oh, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to do this. It's going to happen. I'm pretty sure it's tomorrow. I have a pretty decent plan. I don't say, I hope tomorrow I get to do that. No, tomorrow I'm going to do this. Now, if you ask me in 3 years, you say, well, I hope I might get a raise at my job, right? So you don't really believe it. You don't really know. You don't have a sense of timeline. You're not sure how to get there, whatever. So here you want to think about the end result, not the path to getting to the end result, but just the end result. So you're like, okay, in 3 years, I know that I want to be able to have paid off all my loans and my debt, and that gives you a feeling of happiness and joy and relief, right? So that's what I'm trying to get to. That's the end result. And then you kind of release yourself to the path you take to get there, and you just believe that if I'm focused on the angle of clarity, because I believe it exists and I know it's true for me, that I'm able to the goal to get there. So start from that perspective. The timeline does not matter. If it's 6 months, if it's 3 months, if it's 12 months, it's all good. Just make sure you recognize your own triggers. Make sure you're using temporal language, I hope, maybe, that's kind of not secure and strong language to say I believe something. And just check your gut. Your gut might be a little bit I know I want $1 million, but I don't feel comfortable saying that out loud. So don't say it out loud. Pick a number that you feel comfortable with, right? That's be better for you. If it's a smaller number, it's not as exciting. As long as it inspires you to move toward action, go for it. And for growth realistically, the only thing I'd say here, just a notation about cost. Businesses do cost money. It doesn't mean they cost tons of money, but they do cost money. And you have to invest in your business over time. It doesn't matter if it's small or large dollars when you do that. So just know that you can always grow if you have no money or some money or a lot of money. the pace of growth will be different. So just be realistic about how much money you have and how that impacts the growth model. Again, you can start with no money, some money, or a lot of money. You will all have different growth paths. At the end, will you be able to hit similar metrics? Of course you will. It's up to you and what you want to get done. But the timelines might vary based on your capacity, based on your cash flow. So just be realistic about what's possible. If you only have $10 to spend, you're probably not going to be able to make a $20,000 business in a month, right? So you have to really start thinking about, well, if I only can give this business $100 a month or $50 a month or $300 a month or $500 a month or $1,000 a month, what's realistic for growth? And recognize also that growth is going to be seasonal. It's going to change based on your clientele and what you're doing, what you're learning. So when you start a business, it doesn't assume you're going to have a straight upward cash flow every single month. In the beginning, it's going to be very up and down. Some months you sell really well, some months you don't, blah, blah, blah. So it takes a while for you to get into consistency mode. So just be realistic about that. We're just thinking, just because your business goes up and down, don't let your emotions go up and down. Be clear-headed, okay? Business can be a labor of love, but it is still a logical process. Business can be a labor of love, but it is still a logical process. Yes, there's some art there as well, but there's a lot of it that's very standardized. Again, business models are business models because they work consistently. So there's proof in the pudding there that it makes sense. So just make sure you're being thoughtful about what's realistic for you and where you are. So thanks so much for joining us today. We'll post new episodes every Friday, so please come back every week to watch. I urge you to share this episode with your friends and your colleagues. And next week, we will continue our discussion on small business survival and talk about how to find inspiration when we're going through challenging times. Don't forget to post your questions on Facebook page with the hashtag Dear Dawn, and we will be collecting those throughout the week, and I'll answer them in the next episode. So while you're on Facebook, please watch out for our new weekly content. I am continuing my interview of the week series every Tuesday evening, as well as I launched a Rise and Grow hashtag, where I post my morning commute into work business. I do work in business, and I've done both. I did not run a business. I run a business only full time, and I've also done both. So just different place, different space. But I'm happy to talk about that as well. So coming up, we have a couple interviews coming up, and you'll see them on the Facebook page. Just check out the page and you'll see who's coming up to be interviewed next week and the week after. And we'll share more content, tools, and resources each week. We have some new courses and materials coming out soon, so you'll be able to engage more with that online. And thanks for watching the first episode, and look forward to seeing you next week.